Hi, welcome to the XY Chromies Confidently Uncertain, a show where two Army vets turned renewable energy engineers talk veteran issues, history, science, engineering, geopolitics, and everything in between. I'm your host, Pearson Guest, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Richard Ellis. How's it going today, Richard?
Coming to you live from high atop the bottom of the tip of the iceberg. Good day, Pearson.
Nice.
I knew I was going to mess that one up.
That's fine. These off-the-cuff catchphrases towards the beginning of the intro, I'm always looking forward to something. Maybe it'll be in German. Who knows? We are on episode 47, and I learned what one was in Farsi today, by the way. That was yek. So 1 month is yek ma.
The beginning of the integer number line begins with yek.
Yek and do. That's 2. So those are pretty easy. Anyways, got those knocked out today. So my Farsi lesson is done. So, hardo means both. Also, bonus Farsi word for anybody who wants to know. So, how are you doing today? How are things going over in 60-degree weather Oregon right now?
It's beautiful here. Yesterday I was invited to a party and I did my classic party trick. I repaired something while I was there. I now know how a pellet grill works. My host apparently caught their pellet grill on fire, and
so you Ron Swanson did from the popular Parks and Rec show.
Yeah, I've got big Ron Swanson energy wherever I go.
Yeah.
He'll hand me a snifter of whiskey, and I roll up my sleeves and pull out my tools and begin working on a grill.
Yeah, there's the episode I'm thinking of more that I'm most familiar with is when he goes to like Halloween party and him and him and Ann go around and fix everything in the house, and she's like the helper. And he leaves, and he was like, "Yeah, it was a really good party. I got a lot." He had fixed like a bunch of things in the house. So that was pretty funny. I think
this is the prison of introversion. Is that parties are hard, but if somebody gives me a job, I can be both useful and genial. So anyway, yeah,
the trick is
wood pellet grill torn clear down to its electronics yesterday.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yesterday, what did we do? We cooked, we cleaned. I cooked Chinese food, which is my famous Chinese food fried rice that I made up basically because I was so unhappy with the selection down here. In the Bay Area, yes, you heard me right. I'm in the South Bay Area, and it is hard to find good quality Chinese food Chinese fried rice. That has been very challenging down here. And so after about 5 tries, 5 different restaurants, we decided I'm going to learn how to make this myself. And so I've been doing that ever since. And we buy Panda Express to go with our fried rice, by the way. So
it sounds like the kind of entrepreneurship that goes on in the Bay Area does not center around the culinary delights of the many people who have immigrated to the Bay Area to live and work.
Well, it's weird. I mean, you imagine all these tech people, their families come with them, right? And eventually uncles and grandmas and grandpas show up and stuff, and people open up a lot. There's tons of, so I live in, Little Punjabi, which I've said, so there's a lot of Indian restaurants here, but they're South Indian. Now, this might not mean much.
Different.
Yeah, this might not mean much to most of the people in America or listening to this pod even, but South Indian food is way different than North Indian food. Just straight up. It's a lot more vegetarian. The broths or the not their stews, their curries are a lot
Mm-hmm.
like more watery or saucy, I guess.
Right.
Um,
Thinner.
Thinner, yes. They say it's by design. I'm saying that's cope for them trying to save money, and that's why culturally it happened that way. But whatever, we're just gonna, you know. Um, and then North Indian, you're gonna get more meat option in there, chicken.
Yeah.
Could potentially be in there more, and thicker curries. So normally I've had North Indian food when I was up in Portland, and down here all the restaurants are almost all South Indian, it feels like, in the area I'm at specifically. So lots of Pakistani here, lots of Sikh, large Sikh population. Um, the Sikhs, everybody I've met so far has been vegetarian typically, except for one of the guy's wives. She was into fish. Um, so yeah, but we make our own chicken tikka masala, our own masala now too, for the same reason of a Chinese food rice. We're down here in Little Punjab, not easy to find the right masala for us, and so Sarah, she invented her own from a couple recipes. I mean,
So
when we
as a
say invent, we just combine some recipes together and kind of make it your
right
own kind of thing. So
as a worldly man, and this is welcome to Recipe Corner with Pearson and Richard. This is where um, uh, uh, we break down the gender barriers and gender roles in life and talk about how we contribute to our families with delicious tasting food. Now, I, as a worldly man, I know exactly what you mean by the fried rice that you want is not to be found in the neighborhoods around where you live. Can you tell the audience what is the difference?
yeah, so fried rice. There's a Thai restaurant in Portland that does the best damn fried rice I've ever had. Probably. It's called Farmhouse Thai. I'm giving away. They're very popular already. Super expensive, by the way. For
They
uh,
don't need your help.
yeah, they don't need our help when it comes to this stuff. I we lost image, but I'm gonna just keep going and guessing it'll sort itself out. Discord. Anyways, Farmhouse Thai is phenomenally has this phenomenally good fried rice. It's less fried, by the way, so it's not very. The rice kernels aren't hard. Um,
Yeah.
it's a little bit sweeter, and they use big hunks of onion in it. I think those are like the three biggest differences. I feel like so lighter on the oil. It's a little sweeter, and that might just be because of all the tons of cooked onion in it or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, the ingredients are feel really fresh and natural, and they're not like the frozen bag of vegetables that you may see in fried rice often, like
Right.
the carrots, peas, and corn, which is the medley that they typically put in it. So of course I didn't think I was going to find the farmhouse Thai fried rice because I was very specific, but
Sure.
I was looking for something that at least felt equivalent, close to it, and everything was really far off from that. So what I've recreated is nothing like either fried rice, by the way, but it's definitely really good. Um, I usually put chicken in it, but I didn't do it this time. But usually it's like, a ton of eggs, of course. That nothing changes from that. The big thing is I have carrots, mushrooms, zucchini, uh, onions, and garlic, and then some scallions. Those are like the vegetables I put in it. And so I do a big medley of those, and that's the
Yeah.
vegetable medley that goes in. So I'd say that's the biggest difference. I also sometimes pre-cook bacon and use the bacon
Mm-hmm.
grease to fry the rice with, and then I chop the
Yep.
bacon up into bits, and that goes in there too. So it's like chicken, bacon, egg, fried rice with all the vegetables that I've mentioned before. So these are like my two
Totally.
go-tos. And I haven't had any fried rice that is like mine that has all of those fun little proteins in there as well. Usually it's just egg. Maybe you'll get some pork or chicken, but yeah. So that's the
When you
difference.
you and the family make it back up to the PNW, I'm gonna be spoiling to be invited over to have that dish. You should know this because that sounds pretty good.
It's good. I'm tooting my own horn, but it's definitely good. I will say my mom was a really good cook when I was growing up,
Yeah.
and I probably didn't appreciate her food as much as I should have when I was growing up at the time. By the time I was a teenager, I pretty much ate everything that she made. Um,
Hmm.
but when I came back, in my 20s before I was leaving for the army, I made it a. I was like, I had about 6 months until I was shipping. Um, and so I just was like, hey, let's learn how to cook. I want to learn how to cook some of your recipes, So I had her start picking out from her. She would let me pick out of her recipe book or whatever. She had a bunch of note cards, um, and I would pick out all my favorite foods, of course. So I kind of learned how to cook right before I left for the army officially, and
Hmm.
yeah, I've been doing it ever since.
My my long suffering and angelic mother resented any type of gender role from the mid-century. Even though she really isn't a feminist, really just resented the pigeonholing of the gender roles of the mid-century,
Okay.
and hated cooking. Was capable of it, does it pretty well, did it fine, in her when she got to middle age. But as a consequence of despising these gender roles, what ultimately happened was my dad cooked it more often than my mother.
Okay.
And then as soon as I was big enough to see over the countertop, that job got handed off to me, uh, in the classic tradition of being both field and house.
Yes.
in
Yes.
the in the servant in the style of servitude. And so uh yeah, there was nothing to pass down to me. It was rattle these pots and pans
Mm-hmm.
and make combinations of things that come out of boxes that you can add water to. And I didn't hate the flavor of that type of stuff, but I let's just put it this way. There's a plant called an asparagus. That plant can be enjoyed one way and hated in another way, and
That is
we ate
true.
the hated version growing up. And so when I, became an adult and figured out, oh shit, you can grill this and it tastes fantastic, forget about it. Yeah, life changing stuff like that came into my possession as a skill set. It
Yeah,
was
that's
it was not
kind of
until
trial by
much later
fire, huh?
where I learned how to make the white sauce, the roux, the bechamel.
Yeah.
I learned to do that later on.
Yeah, I mean, so I've definitely gone through stages of my cooking. My dad, he had a recipe. Like his was tuna melt. So anytime mom was going to be gone, with on some trip or something to go visit family or whatever, um, he would stay and he would be cooking his one thing, which was tuna melts, and so that was about it. Um, so he didn't really pass on anything down as far as that stuff goes. Um, Now we're going. So there might
So
be,
anyway,
yeah,
that's how I became a Michelin star chef.
exactly. Yes. End of story. So, God, I think we were filming for about 15 minutes, I'll just say. So we'll keep this part of the episode for till 45 minutes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we were talking about cooking. That conversation was fizzling out, as was our recording. So no. I had I really liked listening to what that Oomfsta. I don't know what his channel stands for. By the way,
UNFTR, Un-F the Republic.
that's what it is. On F the Republic. Anyways, I really liked listening to this guy. I went through his channel and I was like, oh shit. He's like, he breaks down socialism and Marxism and a bunch of other stuff. It's like, well, he sounds like a pretty reasonable communist. uh,
Right.
Actually, he didn't sound like a communist at all. Actually, he very much sounded like he was just a progressive that had noticed some issues with late stage capitalism. So I'd like to give a shout out to that video because it was a great listen. Um, did you get any
Chris and I are talking about a
takeaways
video
from
by the
this?
UNFTR. Yeah, I'm gonna bring this up here in a second. The UNFTR media episode. We are so effed. Tariff chaos, shadow repo, liquidity crisis.
Yeah,
So this is a channel on the YouTubes. Um, we're talking about Max, a basic middle-aged white guy who developed his cultural taste in the 80s, became politically aware in the 90s as a Republican, started actually thinking and writing in the 2000s, shifting left, became completely jaded in the 2010s, moving farther left, and eventually decided to launch UNFTR in the 2020s completely left. That's his bio on the UNFTR website because I'm a creep and a weirdo and I go look things up.
that's great. I only made it as far as his YouTube channel, and I read that. I saw commie, socialist, progressive, liberal, and I was like, all right, let's see what this guy has to say. But
Boy,
but
America, you're failing if vets are going to communist media to look for answers.
Jesus Christ, seriously. No, the guy wasn't communist, but no, he was really well spoken. I thought he did a really phenomenal job. There was a couple things he had said, and I won't be able to quote them now because my memory is a garbage. That he said very eloquently, like it was succinct, but with a little flair to it, and I really liked how he delivered kind of the what he was talking about. Um, Generally he was talking about the economy right now, where the economy was a year ago, where we are now, what the Biden economy administration had set out to do with its economic policy, and how it was going to give payoffs and dividends down the road when you'd get to see it, play out over time, which would have been really good for the upper middle class, the middle class unit, what was left of the middle class, and wealthy people, of course. But it would have forgotten labor. I was a little. That was the area I had a little bit of contradiction with him because, like, I know Trump's been saying he wants to bring back the manufacturing or industrial plant, but like a lot of labor jobs follow the IRA and the CHIPS Act, right? Like they literally, I mean, like if you're a technician and you're working in HVAC, you're working for data centers, you're working for wind turbines, batteries, anything. If you're an electrician, if you're a plumber, if you're in construction, we're up to the gills in work that needs to be built. You can only have so many white collar workers designing this stuff. You need people to actually build this stuff. That's labor right there. That was my little bit of contention for his analysis on that. But then he talked about how Trump's plan, quotation marks plan, didn't even make sense with itself, right? Because there were so many inconsistencies and contradictions within itself, and mainly because there was multiple people who came up with his plan, So
So I have the video pulled up here, and I thought I would kind of read the blurb here. We're gonna spend a little time on this because it's a 35-minute video, almost 36, and you get a snapshot of uh, economic history. You get a snapshot of you get a definition of capital and labor and the money cycle.
yep,
He says there's a hidden market that might crash the economy in 2025. There's tariff chaos. There is leverage in the repo market, which is, I mean, if you unpack the repo market, that's a multi-series, multi-hour long conversation.
yeah,
A burgeoning liquidity crisis, and he uses the metaphor of the tip of the iceberg, and then the iceberg below the waterline. There's an iceberg dead ahead, and we can't see below the surface to know how big it is. In this video, Max makes a big swing at the existential crisis brewing beneath the surface of the financial markets. Trump's tariffs decline declining economic data and slumping global demand will potentially neutralize half of the Fed's crisis response arsenal. Let me stop there. There's more to read there, and maybe I'll get
Yeah.
back to it. But let's if I would like to talk about a couple of things. Um, I'm no expert.
Neither
Looking
am
at
I.
your website, looks like they have some pretty nice content to expand on these ideas. But there's two concepts here that have really emerged that um, like you took mom's great home cooking for granted when you were a little guy.
Hmm.
We took for granted the reputation of the dollar for our entire lives. The
Yeah.
reputation of the dollar as the reserve currency for the world was not fully appreciated by Americans who voted in the last election and put our new executive in power, because one of the critical things that has happened as a consequence of the trade war and economic, I'm going to put quotes around policies because they are far from actual policies. These, what has gone into effect, has undermined the global trust of all economic systems around the globe in the stability and reliability of the dollar. The reputation of the dollar has been sullied.
Yeah.
That's a problem. It's huge. It's tragic. And we may never get it back. So that's one part here. The other part of this is he says the slumping global demand will potentially neutralize half of the Fed's crisis response arsenal.
Yes.
So when the dollar's reputation evaporates away like air, the way the Fed, the Federal Reserve, the way the Federal Reserve handles financial crises is that they can do things like lower interest rates, they can put money into the system, they can source capital from around the globe, and then, you know, do these wonderful things which I think cynical people would just call a shell game. That's what we've been operating on for a pretty long time.
Sure.
But essentially what that does is it is for all the problems of the financial crisis of 2008 that we're still living with, that are still we're still damaged by,
Yeah.
it wasn't nearly the crisis it could have been because the strength of the reputation of the dollar and the ability of the Fed to do all the things in its power to change the problem, right? To
Yeah.
amend the problem. And what is now missing, and this, Max makes a very good point of describing this, is the ability of the Fed to use those tactics in a stagflation economy, which is what we predict is going to happen in this country.
Yes. Yeah.
Please.
And so the reason I think that's such a good summation, essentially, because Max, what he brings up is essentially our whole system is built on trust, internally and externally. And when you harm the trust within our system, and that's what the system is built on. What was scary is he kept talking about all the backstops end up just being the Fed, right? At the end of the day, if this fails, right? Because he brought up 2008, a big thing was AIG, the insurance company that had been insuring all these really bad loans.
Yeah.
They were going to go under if they weren't bailed out. So you have the financial sector that needs to be bailed out. You have the insurance sector that needs to be bailed out. The entire insurance apparatus was going to go under, right? AGI, the biggest insurance company in the world. Um,
Yeah.
and so now we're looking at a situation where we're entering stagflation. He mentions the repo market. He mentions the payday loan market, how that's going up to buy groceries, which is always not a great sign.
Yeah.
And now, yeah, you have a Fed. Well, one, you can't raise interest rates when you're in stagflation. You can't lower interest rates. I'm sorry. You can't lower interest rates when you're in stagflation, because what stagflation is when we're in this spiral where the price of goods are inflating, but so are wages in a way such that you start to get to this death spiral. But if inflation's going up, the only way the Fed can curb inflation is to raise interest rates. How it would normally tackle a financial crisis is lower interest rates or and put money into the liquidity pool. So that like print money, basically issue bonds is what that actually means, and is one of the ways. And then also it issues bonds which are sold from banks, and then it gives credit lines to banks. Banks can open credit. They're allowed to. That's really how money is increased or made, is from the banks through the Fed. So it won't be able to do that because what does that do? Inflation. It's hyperinflationary. So everything that the Fed would normally do to attack a financial crisis, it essentially cannot do. It'll exacerbate the financial crisis, which is his whole point essentially. And he did talk about how he kind of had predicted that Trump would crash the economy. He just didn't think it would be this fast. And Trump was like, "Hold my beer." He is competent totally. at losing some money, man. He is that's one of his most competent skill sets. Looking rich, the perception of wealth, and losing it. So,
yeah, we're gonna call it the. I love the quote that he used in the program from the executive himself. Well, maybe your kids don't get $30 this Christmas, maybe they only get $2. So I'd like to call it the office of $2. I'm ready to really get that, really drive that one home.
Yeah, and by the way,
I love how disconnected that is from just the disconnect right there. That is classic. Like, I remember a long time ago, some of you might remember it too, because you also are graybeards. That time when we criticized the president for not knowing what the price of a gallon of milk was. That was a fun time.
Yeah.
Oh, those are lovely.
How about a gallon of gas? We can criticize this president for not knowing what the price of a gallon of gas is. He keeps saying $1.96. It's going down to $1.95, $1.94. I'm like, where? Effing where? Like, literally where? Yeah. By the way, gas, while I was in high school still, not only went over $1 for the first time when I was like 14 or 15 when I was first driving. Yes, I was driving at 14 or 15. I grew up in the country. You do that. No one cares. I mean, no one but the law probably cares. But there is no law out in the country. There's like one dude for all of the country, just looking around for teens because he's bored. But yeah, when I first could drive, gas was under $1. I mean, I know I look so much more younger than Richard when I'm really only like 8 years younger than him, by the way. But yes, gas was only $1 when I was less than $1 when I could drive. But, I dye my beard. So all that gray beard that would be showing up there, I'm hiding it right now. So I have the appearance of youth. It's just all hidden. It's all broken underneath here as well. It's just the knee. Did I tell you, on a side note, did I tell you I probably pulled my LCL like 2 weeks ago? No.
Yeah.
Very quickly, just to make Richard feel better about his age, I literally was taking on Easter Sunday. It was after our episode of Easter Sunday. I literally injured myself playing soccer with the boys. I'm dribbling it around like I'm 19 or something still. Like I thought I know what I'm doing.
Pele.
Like I'm Pele. I was about to say Pele, but then I didn't want to date ourselves. I should have said Messi or some shit. Anyways, I'm dribbling the ball around like I think I know what I'm doing still, and it hasn't been 20 years since I've really played with a soccer ball that much. And I step on that shit, and I fall so funny that Sarah thinks I'm just joking around. And I literally land so bad that I pulled my LCL. Like my knee is injured. It's been injured for weeks now. And I'm pretty sure I didn't tear it, but I didn't go in to go get, because it's like a CAT scan or something. It's like a whole deal to get it checked out. And I was like, oh, not a CAT scan, an MRI or something. Anyways, something expensive to get it checked out that I didn't want to put my pay deductible for. So yes, I did that at the ripe young age of 39, just completely busted myself up. Ugh. Anyways, side note. But yeah, gas went up to $1.46 by the time I was a senior in high school. That's how much it was
Huge.
when I was a senior in high school. It went up
It's
50 cents, like essentially
It's scandalous.
in 3 years. Yeah. Suddenly people were bitching about gas and shit. So $1.96, Mr. Trump, I'm sorry. I think the lowest gas you'll find is it's got to be in like Mississippi or Louisiana. It's got to be one of those states. Nebraska, Tennessee. These are my 3 guesses. It's Mississippi, maybe Alabama, Louisiana. I don't know.
So if you're playing picture pages at home, you've already gone gasbuddy.com. We're doing a lot of shout outs on this episode. So
Yeah, that's nice.
Shout out to Gas Buddy.
We're not sponsored by any of these people.
None whatsoever. So I used this website when I did my transnational trip to Tennessee a couple of years ago.
Hey.
And I planned my trip around a couple of things actually. Where I was going to end up each night, because I would drive for 8 hours. A couple times I stretched to 12. And I wanted to know what, I wanted to economize on my trip, so I would spend the least amount on fuel possible. So on Gas Buddy's website, there's a price map of the continental United States. And you can even look at the price map for the wonderful states of Alaska and Hawaii. It's also on the map as well.
Okay.
The map uses a color gradient from bright yellow to deep, like purple blue, like a violet to deep violet color. So you can imagine that's kind of a yellow, orange, kind of red, a little bluer, purple, violet, right? That's the gradient.
Yellow being the lowest price or the cheapest.
Correction. We'll flip it around. Yellow, highest possible price.
Yellow being the highest. Okay. Gotcha.
Highest possible price. And we'll start with the left coast, the coast that you and I are on, Pacific time.
It's going to be expensive.
And we're going to move east. So the map shows that California is as bright as the sun.
That's right,
it's
baby.
Bright, cheerful yellow. Washington State is also bright, cheerful yellow, meaning the highest cost of fuel possible.
Yep.
And that is above $4.16 a gallon.
That is correct.
It's north of $4.16.
If $4.16 would be cheap, I went to Costco this morning, and I thought I found the cheapest gas in town at $4.80 because everything else was $5 around the whole area that I'm at. So $4.80 in my area at Costco, which is usually the cheapest gas. So
I'm laughing here because this is so stupid and ridiculous. I can't even believe it. Like the whole thing is so ludicrous. It's as though someone asked the Onion and Monty Python to get together and write America's future going forward since 2015, and here we are. We're literally in the middle of some vortex of
more like Mike Judd. You know what I mean? More like Mike Judd just literally wrote our future along with the Simpsons and South Park guys. Those South Park guys, they just keep getting it, right all the time.
Yeah, totally. So going from the left coast to the east coast, we got big, bright, sunny, yellow states.
Yes.
Oregon is orange, so we have a little bit better price on fuel than the 2 states around us.
Housing prices increase would also follow this map, by the way. I think just almost perfectly correlate. Like if you want to see like 600% increase over the last 10 years in housing prices, it'd be the bright yellow would be all along the West Coast. Oregon would be orange, Washington would be yellow, so would California.
We can zero in on the semicircle that takes a bite out of New Mexico, Kansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, all including Texas, right? That's the purple part of the country. Everything else is some gradient. It's in the red to blue part of the map gradient. So, much cheaper for fuel in the Midwest, upper Midwest.
Let me guess, not a single one under $3. I don't even think it's under $3.10. I don't think we could find gas under $3.10.
Now, much to our executive's credit, the $2 executive, um, it's below $2.12 in Louisiana, parts of Texas, parts of Tennessee. Right? It's below $2, or excuse me, it's below $2.12 in
Mm,
many of these places.
okay.
So there are there are parts of America where the price of fuel is in the
Close
$2
is
range,
close to what
right?
he had. Yeah.
Right? And um, you know, I would say you could also do the red state, blue state overlay map too, and it would correlate a little bit to this. So, um, what we could say is that the places where fuel costs the least, now it's not because of all of the
People, there's a
oil
correlation to
drilling.
IQ to cheap gas, by the way. I just want you to know. The lower the gas
Right.
price, the lower the IQ generally is, and that's that area. That's I'm going to make that
How dare
correlation.
you, good sir? How dare you, sir? Anyway, it's not just because there's a lot of oil drilling and fracking in the part of the country that I'm describing here, although that helps, because prices next to where oil is pumped and refined are necessarily connected to that proximity.
Yeah, because we export
We get
all of our oil. Like we don't
bingo.
use our oil. We
Yeah.
use Canadian oil usually. We set up refinery. We Yeah, for people who don't know, we ship all of our oil out because it's sweet and therefore it sells raw really well out there and it's easy to refine
Yeah.
for most countries. Because we set up specialized refineries, we refine shit oil. Sorry,
Yep.
Canada, but we know you have Canada has one of the sludgiest. I don't know. There's all these really technical terms, that not sweet oil. They have not sweet oil. It is harder,
Heavy sour is what they
heavy
call
and
it. Heavy
sour.
sour.
Yeah, heavy and sour as F. Canadians have a really tough time pulling that shit out of the ground up there. So we refine that.
Yeah, and so that's why it doesn't correlate. Proximity to where the oil is coming out of the ground does
Yeah.
not correlate to lower prices. It turns out that that is more to do with the um, probably the median income slash, the levels of poverty slash any number of the
Generally, the intelligence
disparities.
level. I mean, yeah, I did.
Our Midwestern listeners are very angry with you right now. All
Hey,
one of them.
no, our Midwestern listeners are all just like, thank God I'm not Louisiana. I'm Minnesota.
Anyway,
Yeah,
gasbuddy.com. Go there to plan your next trip across the country where you're going to drive to Washington, D.C. to talk to the $2 president.
that's right. And by the
Um,
way, just as an addendum, I'm in California. We probably have like 20 million stupid people over here. So by just numbers, it's got like half of those states covered worth of their stupid population, just like all condensed into our state. Mostly in SoCal, I'll say. That's the lower half, the prettier looking half, right? California is like two states in one. You've got smart and ugly up in the NorCal. That's us up here, team smart and ugly. And then SoCal is dumb and pretty. They should get together, and then their kids will just be, average, average looking, average intelligence. That's the way it works, right? Uh, that was my takeaway from our demographics conversation, right? That's how it works. Like that.
we're going to revisit that today. I think that was one of our plans was to talk about demographics again.
Oh shit.
I'm looking for a median. So let's see. I'm looking at how housing prices have changed 10 years after the real estate bubble burst. Okay, here we go. So this is Vivid Maps, the website vividmaps.com.
Since the real estate bubble, oh my god, they've just been going up. They recovered by 2011, 2012, and then it's been off to the races ever since. That's my general.
Yeah.
I've looked at these charts before, so I'm not like like Nostradamus. That is who I am actually, is Nostradamus over here making easy predictions.
Let's see. It looks like okay. So what I'm looking at is are one map is very dynamic and it changes in front of me. So my brain's trying to process how these colors are changing. Okay, so on the west coast, on the left coast, the color gradient is dark. It's dark red or crimson for high prices.
Okay.
And the gradient goes to pink to white for lower prices.
Okay.
So the gradient, the chart that tells us what our gradient represents is these median house prices that are above $300,000 down to the right. So 300,000 and above, that's crimson. That's that color red.
Okay.
As it progresses through the pinks to the whites, the price is lower than $150,000. So white basically is that cluster of real estate that is 150,000 or below. I'm assuming it's property with a house. I don't know if they're including just like land or lot.
Yep. Mississippi again will be like mostly white.
Mississippi is white. It's 120,000, kind of like in that range. It's the lightest color. So the lightest color is
it's like the poorest. I just guessed Mississippi, by the way, in case viewers were wondering or listeners. It's typically the poorest state somehow. Mississippi is. It beats out Louisiana, very poor, by the way. It beats out Arkansas. Yeah. It beats out Tennessee. Tennessee still somehow poor, but kind of rich at the same. Weird. Anyways, Alabama, poor-ish.
It's income disparity that you're describing. So
yes,
there's a lot of people living in the state whose lifestyle affords them a car sufficiently dangerous enough to crash into guardrails, which is why I've seen that a lot when I was there. But there are people like
such a great Piquito of information right there. I love it. That's great. There's a sufficient of people who are just driving poorly there. So
well, driving drunk is what they do.
Those aren't mutually exclusive.
Every bridge where there's a guardrail that kind of comes up to it, right? Like the idea is if you're going to crash into this bridge abutment, you're going to crash into the guardrail first. Every single one of them was smashed. There was no such thing as a guardrail in Tennessee that was not crushed by someone driving into it with a 1978 GMC pickup truck. Every single one of them was crushed.
That is hilarious.
So I won't call her out by name, but a friend of mine who works at the Oak Ridge National Labs is on the wealthy side of that income disparity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because her career and education affords her a pretty decent living in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
So you get this disparity. So Tennessee is a pink state. But Oklahoma, Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi,
damn, I'm on a roll.
Belt in there.
Yeah.
Those are going to be the lowest prices. So Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, on the west side of the country, high prices.
Hawaii is also on there too. It's very high. We know it's in the crimson also. We don't even need to go there.
It totally is.
Yeah.
And then New York State, crimson. Your Atlantic Seaboard states, crimson.
Yeah, anything north, Pennsylvania, Maine, all of Maryland, all of that, very crimson. If your radius from New York is lots of people live over there in the East Coast still. It's like 60%, 70% of the country is still over on, east of the Mississippi. So
it is. It is. The population really thins. The American population really thins out as you leave the Ohio Valley and move west. And it has these pockets that are larger population in Texas and Colorado. I think Utah is a growing demographic there. The demographic's pretty healthy. We could describe maybe why that is. We have some theories about why Utah would have a healthy demographic. But the
Mormons breed like rats.
The quad box apology that you're going to have to issue to all of these people that you're attacking in this video.
They call these truth bombs, okay? I'm sorry. Everyone, everyone knew that Mormons are, I mean, they celebrate having large families, all right? I mean, they would probably say, we celebrate having a large family, not breed like rats, but, you know. I'll say rabbits. Sorry, rabbits.
As you get to the West Coast, you have these other I don't have a demographic map up in front of me, but
hey, party people! Sorry for the abrupt stop here. If you're enjoying this conversation, there's a second part that'll be released next week. I had to split this video in half for a couple reasons. One, Mother's Day is this Sunday, and there's just no time to film our other episode. And this one kind of had an extra 30 minutes to it because we had some filming issues. So I figured we would do two 45-minute videos instead. We do continue the demographics conversation. And no apology to the Mormons or anybody else I pissed off. That's just for fun. It's all jokes, people.